Werner, I think without wasting any more time, we appreciate you just taking the time just to allow us to have a chat with you. We understand that fully the season is starting for many athletes in terms of preparations for what is going to be a hectic calendar year when it comes to athletics. That is the Commonwealth Games, you've got the World Championships, you've got the South African Championships, African Championships still coming up. And of course, in between all of those, you've got the Diamond League. So it's a hectic season ahead. And as we understand, with the Olympics having been pushed a year forward, it sort of crumbs up the 2022 year that is coming up this year. So we appreciate you just taking the time just to be with us today. Maybe just to give us an update in terms of what's happening in your camp in relation to, of course, Akani Simbine, and how are you guys are planning to approach the year in terms of building up a program that will make sure that an athlete like Akani comes out best on the world stage. So just for starters, Werner, I mean, how was the break? How long was it for you guys? Are you guys back at camp? And maybe how was the reflection in terms of looking back to 2021 during this break?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Bill. Thanks for having me once again. It's always a pleasure to speak to the media and just give you guys an update on what our plans are and what our preparations are doing and so on. So yeah, as you said.
Apologies, Werner. May I kindly ask if you may put your video on just for media colleagues, the TV guys? Yes.
Hold on a sec. Start video. How's that?
It's perfect. Thank you.
Good. Excellent. Okay. Yeah. As I said, I just thank you very much for allowing me to speak to you guys again. Yeah, as far as the preparation goes, as you said, this is a very cramped year, and we haven't had anything like this before. We've got basically the African champs happening in June, and then directly after that we've got the World Champs in July, the Commonwealth Games again in August. So, you know, those are big competitions, major competitions, and those are the ones that we are focusing on, those three. So it's going to be a lot of running, competitive, hard running for 3 months straight, which means we probably be going to sacrifice a little bit of the sort of the circuit, the diamond leagues and so on, so that, you know, he is prepared for those three competitions, which also means that we will probably not do a lot of running locally in South Africa. We have to run the SA Champs. That's part of the qualification criteria, so we'll definitely do that. There's also a couple of ASA Grand Prix on the cards, although we haven't confirmed all of them yet. So we must be very, can I say, strategic in our planning, and where he runs, so that he is in good shape for those three competitions. As far as the preparation is concerned and training, everything is going well. He's training hard, he's feeling good. Obviously the setback in Tokyo had some kind of effect, but through time and just getting back into training, we are able to, you know, get past that and then just focus on the year ahead, because there's a massive task ahead.
And just in terms of your main focus for 2022, when it comes to Akani, in relation to how he competes on the different stages. Last year, you had spoken about putting more attention in consistency, so that is shifting from trying to focus on medaling at tournaments, but looking at him being consistent in his races. What is the main focus for 2022?
Yeah, as I said, those our focus is on those three competitions, because we know even at Africans there's going to be strong competition, you know, from the likes of Omanyala from Kenya, and then obviously the World Champs. That's just a different level altogether. And because it's run in the US this year, the Americans will probably come out to prove something. And then the Commonwealth, the Com Games, is, he is set out to defend his title. So that's going to be the focus. Obviously, also, we want to be push, to be better than we were last year. Because that's a sign of success. You always want to be better today than you were yesterday. So that's also the other the drive for us, is to just be better at what we're doing every year. And if that gives him the titles, then so be it. But from now, the focus is just on getting the preparation done.
In terms of, I mean, you look at the fact that the Olympics were sort of pushed a year forward, and as we said earlier on, that it sort of have crammed up this calendar year. Now, as a coach, I would think that even trying to put together a program has been different from any other year. How challenging has it been for you when you look at all these meetings that you're saying, okay, of course, we're going to attend this. We're probably going to skip a few of these so that we can get the best out of our athlete. But for yourself, how hard has it been trying to put up a sort of a program in a year that is sort of different from any other year, that maybe different from any year that has been sort of normal to you, because you would understand these are the certain competitions that are coming up. But this time around, it looks a whole lot different. How hard is it, or challenging has it been for you to put together a program for Akani?
Well, it's not just this year, it's the next couple of years, because we've got back-to-back world champs coming up. Next year is another one in Budapest. Then in 2024, we've got Olympics, again in Paris. And then 25, we've got another world champs. So the next couple of years is going to be hectic in terms of performance. And obviously, we knew what the calendar would look like even last year. So the planning and the thinking and the trying to organize everything sort of started last year already. So it's not like we have dumped in now and say, oh, we have to start making a plan. All this started happening, last year already, because we knew what the calendar was going to look like. So it's just a matter of using, the training history, what we've done before, and just pushing forward to know what we need to do going forward. So it hasn't been that much of a challenge, because, as I said, from last year, we knew what the calendar would look like. And the thinking and the preparation started then. So now it's just a matter of the execution. Over to you.
Hi, Werner, did you get that?
No, I lost connection completely. So everything went quiet.
Yeah, so I was just asking.
My network going down or something, but everything just went quiet.
Yeah, I was just asking about, in sort of reflecting and studying previous races as you go into the season, where do you start? Do you start at the Tokyo final, 0.04 seconds close to a podium, or do you go beyond that in the build-up to the Olympics 3 weeks prior to that, where he put in a 9.84 seconds in Hungary, or do you even go beyond that, or are you guys starting a new chapter?
Well, I think a little bit of both, really, because one thing we did say was that we've got the formula right in order to put together the performances in terms of the times and so on. It's just a matter of getting it right at the right time. So that is basically our challenge this year. Our focus this year is to make sure that in our preparation that that he is actually, at the top of his performance when it matters, and that is basically during the World Champs, Com Games, during that period. Just to get back to the time, the 984, obviously it seems to be a little bit overlooked because of what happened in Tokyo, but that was very, very exciting for us because that was a time that we were chasing for nearly 5 years, trying to get into the low 9.8s, getting to a new SA record and African record. So that was a time that we've been chasing for 5 years, and to get it last year was very, very exciting. It means that, as I said, the formula is there. We know what to do to get in fast, and now it's just a matter of getting it right at the right time. And then to do that, obviously, we made a couple of sort of changes in the program. Not too much. It's just a matter of timing, doing the right things at the right time. And then we'll see if it pans out when it matters.
Then have you diagnosed what could have happened in that 3-week period from Hungary to the Tokyo final?
Obviously, yeah, we've thought about it and discussed it and so on, and we know what to do going forward. All these performances and the training is a history lesson, so we have to look at it and take sort of lessons from that. So we know what to sort of do when we go forward.
As I mentioned earlier, Werner, is in our culture. We do have some more of our media colleagues joining us today. And if you just want to throw a few questions to you, I'm going to start with Cooney Timkulu from ENCA.
Okay.
Hi, Cooney, you can go. Okay, let me go with Charles, and then we might come. Yes, let me go with Charles, and then see if we come back to Tony.
Hi, Vuyo and Coach. I hope you are doing well there. Can you hear me, guys?
Yes. Can you?
Coach, thank you so much. My name is Charles from the Daily Sun Media 24 newspaper. We appreciate your time for sharing your plans and goals and aspirations for the season. Mm-hmm. Coach, on top of my list here, I see that the expectations are weighing heavily on Akane. He's one of the senior sprinters. He failed to deliver at the highest level, apart from winning in the Commonwealth last time. So what are the expectations, and is there room for him to fail this time around? Because this is a year that he needs to step up to make up for those previous disappointment. The expectation is so big on him. Your take on the expectations?
Yeah, look, there will be expectations, from not only ourselves, but the people, the track and field, fans and so on. We try not to sort of think about it too much. Our goal is to basically, get him in the best possible shape and form, when it matters. So obviously we know what needs to be done, looking at, the past season, past races. So we learn from those seasons and failures and winnings and so on. So we take all that into consideration in preparation for the next season. So yes, there's expectation. So the best for us now is just to focus on our training and focus that he is healthy, and that when he steps onto the track, then he can give us the best possible performance.
Just to add on that, before we go to Tony, the Commonwealth was supposed to have been held in in Durban in 2022. It didn't happen because of other things. It would have been great to have it here at home so that we can get a closer look and be part of the Commonwealth experience. I'm sure in your mind you're still going there thinking that it's in South Africa. We know that it's going to be in the UK. Obviously, he set out to defend his title in the 100 meters. But at the back of our head, are you thinking that maybe it's also the time for him to deliver a big performance at the World Champs? Because this is the stage where he's supposed to do it. He ran well in Budapest with that great time. But it's only others don't take the Commonwealth seriously because they say the Americans are not there and all sorts of things. What is your take on that? They don't feel it's the right championship because the Americans are not there.
Well, it's still a strong competition. You know, you still have the Canadians in there, the Jamaicans are in there, the Brits are in there. So, you know, a lot of the other strong nations are part of the Commonwealth, and we are part of the Commonwealth. So it still, you know, counts as, you know, big stage, big competition for everyone. The thing is also that an athlete's career is only that long. So he needs to obviously participate in all these big competitions to you know, consider to be, you know, one of the top sprinters in the world. Obviously, yes, the world champs will always be the focus because that is the sort of the pinnacle there in the Olympics. So most of our focus will be on the world champs because that is where he needs to give his best performance, definitely.
Let me try Tony again. Okay, I'll try and find a way to get Tony's question through. Maybe Werner, on this, you've been with Akani for close to more than 10 years now, I think. How have you seen his progress over the years? I mean, maybe if I date back to the first day he walked into the Barnard Stadium, from that moment, you picking him up and setting this relationship with him. And of course, I would understand that maybe the first few years will just be trial and error, but how have you observed his progress until now? Because as Charles, maybe jumping on what Charles was saying, we're still waiting for Akani to be that champion, but on that world stage.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been, this year will be 12 years since we started working. And the big thing is also, you know, when he started that time, he was still a teenage boy, you know. Now he's a full-grown adult. And so obviously everyone goes through a lot of changes during that time. And it's been, the best way to describe it, I think, is a journey. It has truly been a journey since 2010 up to now, and everything that we've been through together. We've basically grown up together. We've developed together in this sport. You know, none of us had any experience in world-class athletics at the time in the beginning, but as the performances got better every year, it opened more doors for us, allowing us to travel to Europe, compete in other parts of the world, compete, you know, at the highest level. And the you know, the learning curve has just been tremendous for both of us. And I think that's probably the one thing that people don't understand. You know, everyone sees the guys running and they think, well, that looks easy and that's about it. But it takes, you know, a lot of dedication, a lot of time, a lot of sacrifice to get to that level. And for us, you know, we can just do what we can on a daily basis. And if the everything lines up on the day, he can run, you know, a fast time, he can win that medal. So we are just, for us, it's a matter of just pushing the limits as far as we can go. to see where we will end up at the end of the day. So that, focus on winning that big title, world title, Olympics, that is always there. As long as he is able to run and he stays healthy, that focus will always be on getting that world title.
Still talking in the midst of the world title. I mean, one question comes to mind when you sort of think Akani and the world stage, and one of them is, what does Akani still need to do that he's on that podium? Has that question come to you at some point? I would think that even after the final in Tokyo, as sort of all these emotions were going through you guys, maybe you've got the disappointment in the back of your head. Did at that time possibly that same question pop up in saying, what else does he still need to do? What more does he still need to do at training to make sure that he gets up there? Has that question rang in your mind?
Yeah, of course. We think about it, or I think about it on a daily basis. Because that is my job as a coach, is to come up with ideas, new ideas, that we can use in training to make him better. Because that's essentially what we want to do. We want to be better season after season after season. So I spend days here in my office thinking about what we can do, what we shouldn't do. That's also a part of it. Maybe there's things that we need to put aside. Maybe there's some things we need to leave out, and think of other things. And now it's, and luckily through my network of coaches that I've built up, I can call on other coaches from around the world just to get advice on what is the way forward, what is the next path that we need to take. So yeah, it's always on my mind, and not just for him, but for all the athletes that are in my group, because each one is different. Each one develops in a different way, in a different rate. So yeah, that's always on my mind, and we keep learning. Even if we're together for the next 10 years, we need to keep learning from each other, from our experiences. I think that's the only way to push forward, really.
Tony, please try. I don't think it's allowing Tony. I think she was bringing up a controversial question here. Maybe just moving on a bit, Werner.
Maybe she can just type the question.
Okay, I think she'll do that at the moment. France 2024, of course, is around the corner, with the other Olympics having been pushed a year forward. Is this the start of the build-up to that?
Sorry, I was just reading Thorny's question here, because she did post it earlier.
Okay.
Maybe I should answer that one first.
Okay, please go.
Okay. Basically, she asked when is Akani's season opener? So the season opener, we're looking at probably towards the end of March and April. As I said, because of the hectic schedule, too much pre-season, so that he's prepared and fresh for the big meet. So look out for him probably to open up, yeah, towards the end of March and April. We want to try, I did mention the Grand Prix as the openers.
Okay. I had just touched on, yes. Is there still a question?
Yeah, there's one more from Cooney. Second question, what other athletes do you have in your stable who would be looking out for? Okay. So since last season, I have Clarence Munyai in my group. And then also the 100-meter women's record holder, Karina Horn, that started with me also towards the end of last year. Of course, she had that 2-year case, the doping case, but that's all sorted out now, and she's able to train and can compete again.
So maybe just touching on that, Werner, how is her schedule looking at this year?
Well, as I said, she was out for 2 years. She wasn't able to train for 2 years. She did a bit of gym work and this and that, the other, but not. So she started with me in October. And her big goal is to compete in Paris at the Olympics. So we're looking at a bit of a longer term sort of goal for her. She wants to be, back to her, sub-11 form when it comes to Paris. So for her, we're taking it easy, day by day, just getting her back into running again. We haven't planned anything definite for her this year, but there will be some races for her this year just to get racing again. But for her, we're taking it pretty easy right now.
You mentioned earlier on, of course, consistency being sort of the drive for this year. I think for also any other athletes, mental strength. And I keep going back to the fact that the calendar is so crammed up this year. We're looking at what is not a normal sort of athletics year. Mental strength, is that one of the things that you guys are also putting a focus on, making sure that any athletes or any one of your athletes, whenever they pace up or they line up, they sort of mentally strong?
Yes. Mental health has obviously come under the focus or under the spotlight since last year at the Tokyo Games. So yes, that is something that we talk about. Have the big stage, whether it's success or failure, we need to have those coping mechanisms in place, to deal with it. And I think it's also to do with confidence. When an athlete does well, they have a lot of confidence, and that will help with the mental stability. But if they don't, we have to, just through communication, we try and keep an open channel and just communicate about these things and talk it out before it becomes major stumbling blocks for us. So we try and keep the communications open between all of us so that we can deal with these the mental side of the game as well.
A mentally strong athlete would use a failure like a Tokyo final defeat like that, which was so close, to drive them to even do better. Are you getting that from Akani at this point, to say that failure could just be a blessing that would drive me to want to even run faster, to even train harder this year than I've ever done?
Yeah. So obviously he's, in his own way, he's dealing with that. He's dealing with that, what happened in Tokyo. So, he's got his own, as I said, coping mechanism or ways of dealing with that. But, once he's in training and once, we're on the track, you'll see the real Akane come out. and deal with those things and overcome it. To be a better athlete. So as I said, he deals with it in his own way, and I accept that. And from there we can move forward.
When you're talking about consistency in the races this year, what time
Yes.
are you hoping that he puts up in some of the races, and how many of those races he sort of puts up a certain time? So what time do you have for him to clock? And in how many races does he need to do that on to make you happy as a coach, or to feel confident as a coach that at any world stage he's going to come out tops?
Yeah. Well, as we know, with this sport, there are really no guarantees to say that you will run a certain time at a certain certain place, whatever. We are focusing on those three big competitions, and in those competitions, he is going to get a lot of or those major meets, and he will get a lot of competition in that. And if he has someone that pushes him, we can see times in the 9.8s again for sure. And that'll make us happy to know that we can consistently be around those times. But at the same time, we never discuss times really. We know what we're capable of. We know what he's capable of doing, but we don't ever say that we want a specific time. We're just gonna, get on the track and run the best that he can. If he brings the times down, then so be it. That's good for us. It means that we're doing the job. But in terms of the setting, specific times, it's difficult to say.
Charles, is there another hand?
Yeah, yes, Bill, it's another hand. Thank you, Coach. I take it this year it's about medals, because one, you are sacrificing the Diamond League, which has $50,000 in there, lots of prizes, and athletes can make a lot of money. I take it it's about titles this year. You just want, it's not about the money, you're chasing that big title so that it can still Akannis. And then secondly, Coach, when I know there's a rule that taking part in the SA Championship is compulsory. If you don't take part, then you have to produce a medical reason or a valid reason to say why you did not participate in the SA Champs. I take it the SA Champs is a priority. You won't miss it, apart from choosing one or two Grand Prix. Thank you.
Yeah, you kind of broke up during that first question, but I get the most of it. So we are not sort of deliberately sacrificing the Diamond Leagues. We know that that's a good payday. The guys run for money. The pro guys definitely. It's just unfortunately that is the schedule we have for this year. We cannot get around it. And we decided early on, before the season started, that those three will be the focus. And the reason why we will probably miss a lot of the sort of early meets on the circuit is because of the vast, the distances between the meets. We've got African Games down here in Mauritius. So we will not be traveling to Europe probably before then. That'll be pointless. It's better just to, do the African Champs from here because it's in Mauritius, then go to Europe. The World Champs will be in America, which is on, the west coast of America. That traveling alone, takes a lot out of you. So we'll probably spend 2 weeks before competition in America. And then like literally a week or so after that, we traveled directly to Birmingham for the Com Games until I think it's the 12th of August. So if you look at the calendar, in those times when we are traveling, there's a lot of diamond leagues happening. But luckily, there's some diamond leagues, definitely still after that in August and September. So we can finish the season strong during those diamond leagues. So it's just a matter of, you know, the traveling and that'll sort of not stop us, but will, you know, won't allow us to do some of these diamond leagues.
And then the question about taking part in the South African Championship, which is compulsory.
Oh yes,
yeah,
no, yeah. Obviously, we know that. We had a national coaches meeting the other day, and it was made very clear that the essays is compulsory. It's part of the qualifying criteria to make the national team for both Africans, well, all three of those competitions really, because they use that as sort of a that criteria in your event. And then besides that, you obviously also have to run the qualifying time for your event. So yes, it is important that we do that. And it's in Cape Town. We haven't run in Cape Town in a very long time, so it'll be nice to do that.
One other thing I wanted to touch on, Werner, with you, and you've had spoken about this even prior, you know, even trying to bring in some female athletes, young female athletes around the ages of 17, who are focused and are willing to put in the work. And of course, the question, it was evident last year at the Olympics and even building up to the Olympics, if I think correctly, we had about 5 females at the World Champs, and when it comes to 100 meters like track and field, we sort of had none. You know, our fastest sprinters couldn't qualify, and that sort of raised up a question. You know, it's a big issue, and I just wanted to get your thoughts around that in terms of how do we solve that situation here in South Africa, where we get to a point where we have females also representing us at world stages like that?
Yeah, look, that specific question has also came up in our coaches meeting the other day about our female athletes, or the lack of female athletes out there, and it's an ongoing discussion. I think the federation needs to put sort of more structures in place to make sure that our female athletes come through into the senior ranks. We've got a group of very, very good junior athletes, female athletes, and whether it is the federation's responsibility or the coach's responsibility, or there's an agent involved, somehow between all these people, we need to make sure that these youngsters, the female athletes, come through into the senior ranks. One other thing that I've also raised and what I feel strongly about is that huge, leap that juniors have to make into the senior level is the reason why we do lose a lot of athletes. If you look at the Tokyo team that from last year, how many juniors were in that team? Not many. It's like the federations rely on a small handful of senior athletes to do the job, and we don't see, those strong junior athletes coming through into the ranks. The federation just relies on these handful of athletes to do the job, and some of them are not participating anymore. Some will retire in the next few years. So that small group is just getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and yet we struggle to get these juniors through. And that is something that we need to address, definitely. One suggestion that I made to ASA is to reinstate the under 23 category that we had a couple of years before. at least it'll keep the athletes, in the game for another 2 years before they have to make that switch to senior. It'll make it a little bit easier. So that is one way to do it. But yeah, we need to look at these problems.
The other one that when I reflect back to last year, the previous year, was that of our relay team. I think also that structure needs certain focus. Looking at how we panned out, of course, at the Olympics, but then if you shift a few weeks back in Poland, we put out such an outstanding performance. So we sort of got a glimpse in terms of our team can do good on the world stage, but then, those little mistakes kind of hindered us from even, reaching a final. Is that one of the things that you've thought we sort of need focus on, we need attention on? Because even in the build-up, Werner, one of the things that we're sort of looking at and talking about as media is, once you get to the Olympics, you've got one of the athletes that is based in America that wasn't part of the team. And a relay team is one of those teams that needs to be united even in the build-up. So one had been missing, one has little time now to prepare for the Olympics. And then another one, of course, gets injured, which is another situation at that. But the idea was the team felt like at some point there was not that full unity because one is based across the world. Hence, it would have been nice to have the team together at one time. So it's just those little things, not saying that was the major thing why we didn't succeed or go through, but just some of the little things that we picked up into the build-up last year for our relay team that has so much potential, as I mentioned, with that performance in Poland.
Yeah. Look, our relay team do have a lot of potential, a lot of depth. There's a lot of guys that can step into that and team. The relay program has made a lot of progress over the last 3 years. Firstly, by having an actual structure in place, to get, for instance, relay camps and going and so on. So in terms of the preparation for Tokyo, yeah, there were a couple of hiccups through injuries, and the team didn't look the same as they did in Poland, for instance. But those are the situations that the team needs to deal with. I don't have a lot of insight as to exactly what the relay program will look like going forward, but the people that are there are fully capable of doing the job for sure. And as you said, the main thing about the relay team is that the guys that are in there are a unit. They're all gelling, they get along, and so on. So they have to get the buy-in from the athletes into this relay program. So, but we still have confidence. We do have a strong relay program. We do have the athletes to do it. It's just a matter of getting it together, at the right time.
And maybe just in closing, Werner, how would you want Akani's legacy to sort of look like? I mean, if you look at it in the space of an athlete, how any athlete would want to leave a certain legacy. I mean, for Akani, it still remains a Commonwealth Games medaling legacy. And as Charles had mentioned earlier on, we know he has the potential to write another higher piece for his legacy, which is on a world stage. How would you want his legacy to be like when we remember Akani? And I know retiring is still far, but when you remember Akani, how would you want that legacy to sort of be written? And I don't think Commonwealth Games is reflective enough when you look at the work that he puts in, would be reflective enough in his legacy to say this is what he was only able to achieve?
Yeah, look, yeah, that's a good question, and I think that's probably one that he can answer the best, as to what he feels his legacy should be. But if I probably have to put myself in his shoes, I would probably say that he wants to be known as the best sprinter the country has seen, and along the way win the titles that are necessary, the world titles, the Olympic titles, and so on. There's still, hopefully, God willing, there's still a couple of years ahead where we can prove that he is one of the best out there. He's been ranked top 5, or in the top 5 in the world for the past 3 or 4 years. That in itself is a huge achievement. But we always look forward. We look forward to what we still can achieve. As I said earlier in the beginning, to be better tomorrow than we were yesterday. That is success, and that is, I think, probably what he wants to be known for, as being one of the best out there.
I see Charles's hand again, I think. Charles?
Thanks, Boyo, and thanks, Coach. My last one is, Coach, just to add on what I was saying, to put it bluntly, you were saying that the Commonwealth is more like a regional competition, which is a fact. But that was a, by the way, statement. Coach, I just want to know, from where you are sitting, what is the state of the South African athletics, especially in the sprinting department? Are we in trouble? In 2019 in Doha, we returned home with no medals. We went to the Olympics, returned with no medals. Are we on the decline? Are we in trouble? What is the state of our sprinting at this stage? And going to the Commonwealth, do we have a point to prove, and where do we begin to address these things? Because at home, the people will be expecting big performances, because the Commonwealth will be a warm-up competition, and then the real one will be the world champs and the African champs, where everybody is involved. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, just to clarify, the calendar is basically African champs is first, then we've got the world champs, and then we've got the Com Games in August. So that the big focus obviously will be the world champs. So just to get back to the other question, is that we do have depth in our sprinting. If we look at the juniors coming through. In terms of, I cannot speak for the federation, I cannot speak for ASA and what their plans are going forward. We do have a new board that was voted in last year. And the people of there now are the custodians of athletics, and they must put in the support structures. As for myself, I mean, we've got, some of the best coaches here in South Africa. We have really good sprint coaches here in South Africa, and that are doing very good work and doing hard work to get our sprinters to world-class level. And it's just a matter of getting the support for those athletes in order to, for instance, compete at international level, because that's the only way that you can progress. Myself, I have my group of athletes, and that is my focus. If we can sort of lead through example of just putting in the performances, because that's what gets you up the ladder, that's what gets you up the ranks, is the performances. And as I said earlier, we have to make sure that our junior athletes, our youngsters, get through to the senior level. I think our senior group is maybe too small, and top level athletes in the senior ranks.
Werner, appreciate you taking the time just to have a chat with us today, just to catch up, beginning of the year, letting us into your base in terms of how your preparations are looking like with your athletes and what the calendar year is looking like for you guys. And from us, we're wishing you all the best. We're still going to touch base with you as always. Wishing you best all the year with the competitions that are coming up. Of course, with the preparations, may all your athletes be healthy for this year.
Yes, that is the biggest hope for us all. All the athletes stay healthy. If they can stay healthy through the season, they can give us the performances. That's what we want to do.
And maybe then they write
thank you for having me.
Yeah, and maybe they write a legacy for you as well as a coach, having coached some of the best in the world. I'm sure that's you are writing your own legacy in this, and there's a certain picture that you would want at the end when you retire, to say, when I started back and opened that book back in 1992, and I started my research after that, got into full coaching at years later. At the end, this is what I sit with in terms of my legacy.
Well, we've got a job to do, and that's what we signed up to do. That's what we'll do.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Werner. Wishing you all the best and all the good health. God bless you guys.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us. We'll try to do it better next time. This technology is a big hurdle, but we'll figure it out. So we're going to be doing Athletics Fridays, bringing in going into different camps. Next week, Friday, we've got Vanda Nell. Just got a slight scoop for her regarding her focus this year, which has shifted than any other year. You'd be surprised. So let's join again next week, Friday. Vanda Nell will be joining us. She's already confirmed. And I guess following up to that, we're going to be building up with some of the other athletes. If you guys also for the hashtag Athletics Fridays have some ideas that you think I might approach, I can approach those athletes, and then we sit down with them, and then let's make this into a good series like we did during the Olympics time. But for next week Friday, I'll send a link. We've got Vanda Nell. So all the best, and wishing you guys a blessed weekend.